But then the one role that was missing in this vocational training was producer.
Hi Ting, how are you?
Hello, I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you for coming on the channel today.
Sure.
In a little while, you're going to talk about, I guess, how universities can prepare us for when we graduate. We'll get into that in a moment. But before we do, who are you? What do you do? What's your job? Tell us.
Right. So I would say primarily I'm a sound designer and composer, mainly for theater. But then obviously because of lockdown, I've also taken on some radio work and some smaller projects, like sort of online. And pre-COVID, I was also a sound dep, so I dep as a mic tech from time to time. And then also, I would say I'm also now a theater maker, and I co-founded a theater company called Out of the Blue last year. And that was from an online collaboration we had during the first lockdown. Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
and I sound designed our first production. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Amazing. That's a lot. We'll get back to some of that later on because I think that's useful for our last question. So I'm just going to frame how we met, although we've never actually met. We've met on Twitter.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
and you tweeted something out. I'm just going to read it now so I get it verbatim. It says, drama schools should at least have a masterclass teaching their students how to self-produce work. It's painful. And that came across my feed and I thought that's really interesting to me because I am all about trying to enable theatre makers to make their own work. That's something I'm very passionate about because it's something that I do. So your tweet chimed with me and I said back to you, I said, I do this type of workshop, but for actors. And then you said, well, I really wish we had one for sound design.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do that, but please come on to the channel and let's have a chat. So with all of that in mind, knowing what you know now, wherever you are in your career, what do you wish that your drama school had given you, had maybe set you up with?
Yeah.
What type of things
Uh,
were there?
so I think first I would like to tell a bit backstory of why I made that tweet. So basically, it was after we started to collaborate as Out of the Blue, and at that time we've already finished making the show Imaginarium. It's an online audio show, and then we were trying to do our actually second round of online streaming. And then the first round we did it with online festival, so it was like relatively easy. But then the second time we were trying to do it ourselves, and then it involved like lots of marketing, and then mainly marketing, I would say, at the time. And then although we had a producer helping us, but he wasn't like full-time working because we couldn't actually afford being a very new theater company and lack of funding. So then we had to do lots of things ourselves, and it was quite overwhelming because we were adjusting the production and then also taking on lots of marketing stuff that we actually didn't really know how to do. And then the whole process of promoting the show was just, it just got overwhelming. And then like reflecting on the whole process of actually making this show, like basically like we were trying to produce this show ourselves, and it was just so difficult. And then there was like so many things we just had to learn on the way. And then so I just thought it would have been really helpful if I actually got to learn some stuff when I was at drama school. I actually went to one of like the most prestigious drama schools in London, and then my training background was in technical theater side of things. And then it was actually a vocational training. So we do productions at university and learn how to actually do productions as technicians or designers or stage managers. But then the one role that was missing in this vocational training was producer. Like we weren't like obviously we weren't trained to be producer, but then also because essentially the university produced the shows, so then there wasn't actually a producer in this whole process of training. And then like we weren't really, I think we just didn't know exactly what the producer do. It's like I had some idea of okay what this job probably entails, but I don't know for sure what a producer has to do. And so like basically in the university productions, I never worked with a producer. And then so it just got quite complicated when it came to self-producing, because like before I started, like before you start, you don't really know what actually you need to do to produce your own work. And then I know like my university started to have this kind of like self-producing training after I graduated, but unfortunately, yeah, I didn't have that when I was there. And then I highly doubt that when they have this, it's probably more for the actors and directors. I don't really think it would also be for technicians, because usually I think it's also like in the industry, there are so few designer-led projects. So like most of them are like writers or directors-led or producer-led, but you don't really have that many designer-led projects. But I've seen some and they're great. So I think it would be I think it would be really helpful, like giving the chance to a designer and let them know that when they have an idea, they can also produce their own work. And then, yeah, so back to the production we did as Out of the Blue. It was initiated by our writer director, and she got me and another guy on board, and it was the three of us. And we're all like emerging artists, and we didn't really have much, like none of us really had much experience in self-producing. And then although we had some producers helping us on the way, but like essentially lots of things we had to do ourselves. And then I think especially when it comes to like fundraising and then marketing and then planning the whole process from the very beginning, like it's the lack of knowledge in these makes it particularly difficult to actually make like a well thought process of producing this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think so coming back to like what drama schools can provide, I think yeah, at least a master class or like a workshop like introducing what's producing in theater is would be immensely helpful. So then at least we have some ideas of what it's like to produce your work, or like what things you need to know to start it basically. Because lots of things, I'm sure like lots of things you can learn on the way of doing it, but then a general idea will be, I think, the basic
Mm.
helpful thing
Mm.
to be taught at drama schools.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the term theatre maker probably has only been around maybe 10 years. I'd probably argue that it's under that actually. And initially, I think it was the actor that was redefining themselves as a theatre maker. But um, I think that is changing. The terminology is actually like you're demonstrating, is including everybody now, sound
Yeah.
designers, stage managers, because I think that the industry is moving towards people having a bit more of an autonomy over what
Mm.
they're making, and they're thinking to themselves, actually, I'm going to do this myself because I'm really passionate about my project. But it
Yeah.
seems that there is a little bit of a drop in the system, that the bridge isn't being quite provided yet, I guess.
Yeah.
But as you say, that maybe your school has started to wake up to that possibility.
Yeah, and I would say like even when I was on the technical course, I know loads of my course mates got onto this course because they love theater, like they love making theater. So that I think really the chance is for everyone, when they want to make their own work, they should have the tools to actually be able to achieve it.
Yeah. So, thinking about you now have this platform we're talking, and it's going to go onto YouTube, and anybody can watch it around the world. Um, what specific advice would you give now if you could like maybe name a couple of things, go right, make sure there's that, make sure there's this, like what's a quick tick box advice
Right.
for the graduate who's going to come out, specifically sound designers? I would say that'd be more
Yeah.
useful, that you go, okay, you have to know this.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things I didn't learn, which I learned after graduating, from the wider community of designers or like theater makers. Because like actually I was taught about some platforms which you get like Mandy, for example, when you look for jobs. But then it's like no one told me that Twitter is a big thing in theater. Like I had no idea. I didn't really use Twitter, but then I realized the first year after I graduated, like oh, Twitter is actually a big thing. Like you can really make like connections on Twitter. So get a Twitter account can be very helpful, and build yourself a website, I would say, because essentially I think we were self-employed. Like we have to make this brand of ourselves, and we have to make ourselves known to those potential collaborators. And then like a website would be a great way to like show yourself like who you are, what kind of work you make, and as a very direct way for other people to see, if they're interested in you, if they want to work with you. So I think website is very important. And then sound design wise, there are a few softwares that are very useful, like QLab, or well, I use Logic, but then there's like lots of other like similar ones, like Pro Tools or Cubase or all that. Like you need to have at least one, because the things when I was at uni, the university provided the softwares, but then being a sound designer, you really have to have that tool yourself to actually keep making work. Yeah, and then the things that they can be pricey. I don't really know the answer to like how you can really afford it when you're just starting, but you just need to save up and
Mm,
get the software because they're just essential to making your work.
mm,
Um, and I think it's it's something I'm also still trying to get better, is to seek people in the industry and get advice from them, because actually lots of people in the industry are very happy to help like emerging artists or newcomers, but then I always feel a bit intimidated when I try to approach a person who's more experienced. But I think you don't have to be, because they are actually really happy to help, and I myself are really happy to help those who are less experienced than me. So I think yeah, it's very important just to approach them and
mm,
get advice from
mm.
them, and yeah, and be a nice person.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. Whenever I say indulge in something that I need for work, I've
Mm,
repositioned it now. I call it investment. It's an investment in my career. I give an example. This computer is one. I
yeah,
bought it a couple of years ago, and I had to have it. I just
yeah,
had to because my other one was 10 years old. It was free from somebody, and it broke a lot, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I had to beg, borrow, and steal to find the money for it. But it's the best thing I ever did because then my work went forwards. And then
yeah,
just to touch on the last note that you said, you reminded me of another interview I did a couple of weeks ago. It's on the channel, with an actor I worked with years ago. He lives in New York, and he spoke about the networking thing. And he
mm,
said, in the UK, we're frightened to do that. He said, in New York, he said he spotted everybody does that. They don't recognize status in the same way that we do here. He says, if
okay,
you see a famous director or actor, New Yorkers go up to them and say, hey, I really want to work with you one day.
okay. I thought it was
And
only just me scared of it. I didn't know everyone's scared of it.
it's country specific, apparently.
Oh,
So, last thought then. Well, obviously, we are where we're at the moment. We're in January 2021, and we seem to maybe slightly, possibly emerging out of our current COVID crisis. What are you doing for the future? What are there any seeds that you're planting, or any sort of advice you
yeah.
would?
So actually, like as keeping the sound design work going, I actually had three projects. I was supposed to have three projects going in January, but then they all got postponed because of the lockdown. And I suppose they will resume sometime after the restrictions lifted. So I think I'll keep being the sound designer for other people's shows in that sense. And then also I'm planning to make a developing your creative practice application, the funding from ACE. Because I have some ideas of there's some areas in sound design I would really like to explore more. And then I think it's just a great chance if I can get that funding and then actually fund myself to develop in those areas.
Mm.
And then another thing would be developing out of the blue our own theater company. So we've started actually to have like weekly company meetings and really try to build the structure as a company and then to plan for the next 2 years at least to like make a 2-year plan and then really start to doing more projects as a company together. And then
Mm.
also because we've got some advice from other producers and then we know there are some books we need to read so then we can have a healthier practice. And then yeah, so I think the company is also going to be one of my major um, projects in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like act just like you are paused. We're paused, aren't we? It's not the end. That's what I keep telling myself. I had a couple of projects that were supposed to happen last year and obviously didn't. And they're kind of provisionally heavily penciled booked for this year. So I
Mhm.
just think they are going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, they're just paused for now. But yeah,
Sooner or later, it will
yeah,
come back.
yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for your thoughts, Ting. I'm going to put up your Twitter account as well so everybody can see the original tweet and the feedback from it. Thank you. All right.
Thank
And
you.
okay, bye.
Right.